You can check all the boxes as it relates to your finances and still not be ready to retirement. There is the objective side, all the different parts of finances, technical aspects, but there's the subjective side, and that part matters way more than what people give it credit for. You've spent decades preparing for this, growing your assets, having a plan, and yet people get to the finish line and they completely forget, what is your life going to look like? What are you going to do on a day-to-day basis? I've heard people remark, oh, my retirement, I'm going to sit on a beach and I'm going to drink cocktails. That's not a retirement. That's a vacation. What are you going to do after that's done? That's 2 weeks of your life. What are you going to do for the next 20 years? As it relates to the subjective part of your retirement, I have found that there are 3 things you really need to focus on and understand how you're going to fill up what I refer to as these buckets. The first bucket is purpose. This one's pretty simple. When people hear it, they think, well, you need something that gets you up in the morning, something that you're working towards that motivates you. It can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but we as humans, we crave purpose. The second thing you need in your life is joy. Once again, not altogether surprising, but people can find it really hard to find things bring them joy. When I think of joy, I think of the movie The Bucket List. Jack Nicholson, Morgan Freeman, great movie if you've never seen it. But there's a scene where they're staring at the pyramids, Egypt, and Morgan Freeman's character says that the ancient Egyptians believed that when you got to the gates of heaven, they were going to ask you 2 questions. And the answers to those questions were going to decide whether or not you got in. The first question was, have you experienced joy here? And the second question is, have you brought joy onto others? I think that's a great way to look at your retirement, making sure that you're enjoying yourself. You've waited your entire life for this. Enjoy your freaking self, right? I have found in my life, I've worked a few different careers. The most satisfying thing I have found is to be of service to others, whether it be in my career, but also in my personal life and things like that. I think you'll find the same thing in retirement. That feeling is not going to go away. You're still going to want to have something that brings you joy as well as others joy. And the third thing people need is a sense of community. This one, once again, is self-explanatory, but I think we need to do a little bit of a deeper dive to understand how exactly are you going to feel that sense of community, because you can do it in a lot of different ways. People live in a lot of different parts of this country. They live in cities, live in suburbs, they live in the country like I do. Me living in the country, you can feel a large distance if you let it happen with your neighbors and stuff, because we are all spaced apart. And yet these small communities sometimes feel the most tight-knit, and yet people that live in these large cities with millions of people feel so disconnected. But when I think a sense of community, I think of a book called Tribe by Sebastian Junger. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. Not a very long read for people who don't want to sit down and read the Bible of all books, but Sebastian touches on a lot of different topics. So Sebastian was a war journalist. He spent a lot of time in Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan. And he talks about his experiences with soldiers and he relates them to our everyday life. He's got an interesting perspective on PTSD. He feels that not only is the driving force these traumatic experiences, but also the fact that when these soldiers come home, they don't have that connection they felt, and they long for that connection. And he talks about some different stories. One of them, he talks about the bombing runs in World War II in London. If you're not familiar, in World War II, Germany, the last-ditch effort, started bombing London. And so what would happen is these people in London built these bomb shelters for the community. And they would hear these sirens that let them know that the Germans were coming. And so they would all go these bomb shelters. And they would huddle together until the coast was clear. So the war ends. And what happens? All these community members, they start talking about how they missed the bomb threats because of the closeness they felt in the community. Think about that for a second. Their lives were essentially in mortal danger. There are bombs dropping around them, but they would rather deal with that and experience the closeness felt with their community members than to have to go through everyday life. And it's the same thing for soldiers that we've noticed when they come home. They miss combat in a way. They would rather stare death in the face every single day, but feel that closeness with their brothers or sisters and have to deal with this life on their own. So how does this relate to retirement? Think about it. These 3 things I just spoke about, you lose a lot of when you stop working. Our careers provide us with a lot of purpose. That one's easy. People get up in the morning, they go to work. I was just talking to a dairy farmer who would get up at 4 in the morning, start milking his cattle. He would go off, work a full-time factory job. So he would work 8, 9 hours, come home, cattle again. I don't know, have an hour or two of free time before he went to bed and did it all over again the next day. Oh, and guess what? On weekends, he doesn't work the full-time job, but he's still milking cattle. So he had been out of it for about 5 or 6 years. You know what he told me? He told me he missed it. He missed that life. I about fell out of my chair. I'll be honest. What? And he said, yeah, because of just like that purpose he felt. And at the end of the day, he knew he was providing milk for people. He was taking care of this cattle. He's an excellent farmer. I see it, honestly, more than you would think, of people that retire and they think all they need to do is get to retirements and all their problems are going to be solved. Guess what? 6 months, 9 months, a year, however long, they get into retirement, they come back to me, and you know what they tell me? Joe, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. I've got all this time. I'm lost. And so you have to start to understand the human condition, understand what drives us. And the first thing you got to understand about humans is we are not very good at understanding what's going to make us truly happy and content. And I use the word content specifically because to me, that should be the goal. People often are chasing happiness. Happiness is really tough. It's hard to define. I have yet to find anybody who has a great explanation of what exactly happiness is because it's fleeting. You can be happy 1 second and the next second you're not. And so what I choose for personally and for people I work with as the goal is contentment. So what is contentment? I can describe contentment in one word. And that word is, what I mean by that is when you're content, you have enough. Your life is enough. Your family, maybe your job, your hobbies, the groups you're involved with, the things you do on a nightly basis. It is enough for you. And if it's not, it's easy to think to yourself, okay, what is something that would make me content? So that to me is the true goal of not only life, but especially in retirement. What's going to make you content? There's always more money, a bigger house, better job. But what are the things that are going to be enough for you? At what point can you sit there and say, you know what? That's enough. Another great little story. There's a book I read a while ago, and they had this story of these two very successful writers, and they went to this billionaire's house for a party. And the one writer remarked to the other one while they're at the party, he makes more money in a week than you do in 10 years. And the other writer smiled and laughed. He said, yeah, but you know what? I've got something he's never going to have. And he said, what's that? And he responded with, enough. I think that's very powerful. You can have enough no matter what your life circumstances are. So that's the true goal of retirement. So when you think about your retirement plan, yes, the numbers, equations, financial planning, it's extremely important. You got to make sure you're ready to take the plunge. But spend a lot of time planning what your life is going to look like as well. What are you going to do on a day? What's going to get you up in the morning, get you excited, help you have some fun, and make sure that you've got a solid social work. We spend so much time in our lives planning vacations, planning birthday parties, planning our next renovation of our house. Take some time to plan what your retirement is going to look like. And I can guarantee you, if you do that, you're going to have a much more successful retirement.